Israel continues their assault into Gaza, Yemen joins the war, and Hamas put out video of a homemade torpedo that they have developed. What's going on, everyone? Let's take a look at some updates as it relates to the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. I'm recording this at 2 p.m. Central on Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. Israel says that over the past 24 hours, they've conducted 300 additional strikes in Gaza, and that brings the total to 11,000 targets struck since October 7th. During the strikes in the past 24 hours, Israel says that they're able to eliminate Hamas commander Ibrahim Biari, who they say was the commander of Hamas's Central Jabalia Battalion. Additionally, moving further north, surface-to-air missiles, rockets, mortars, and anti-tank missiles continue to be fired into Israel from Lebanon by Hezbollah forces. During each one of those instances, Israel says that they respond with force, striking the location of the attack. Now, these Hezbollah anti-tank missile teams have been a thing for quite a while now, really from the early days of this conflict. Those small teams are getting killed nonstop, right? It's essentially a one-way mission at this point, really low-level fighters. We've not seen a lot of Hamas commanders so far taking part in the hostilities. From Al Jazeera, the Gaza Health Ministry put out that 8,796 Palestinians have been killed during the air war over Gaza. Of that are 3,648 children, 2,290 women. Some additional statistics that I thought were worth putting out here, again coming through Al Jazeera. They say that 22,219 Palestinians have been wounded, 2,030 are believed to be buried, and that includes 1,020 children that could be buried amongst the rubble in Gaza. Additionally, they say 130 medical personnel have been killed, 28 ambulances destroyed, and 270 attacks have taken place on the healthcare system, which has led to, as of today, November 1st, 16 out of 35 hospitals in Gaza out of operation. Al Jazeera also added that in the West Bank, 128 Palestinians have been killed, 1,980 wounded. So across the board, the bombing is continuing. It's intensifying in a lot of areas as Israel pushes forward with their ground assault. Those numbers are only going to escalate from here. Now, shifting over to the Israeli ground operation, we're going to look at a map here put together by WarMapper on Twitter. And a quick note, I think sometimes we think that we have real-time accurate information coming from the war zone, and we just don't. Everything is going to be at the very least hours, if not days behind what's actually happening on the ground. And sometimes it can take days, weeks, months, or even years until after a conflict is over to fully understand what is actually happening. That said, over the past 24 hours, Israel says that they continue to push into the north, northeast, and east, headed towards Gaza City. The ground operation, Israel says they attacked a terrorist compound with ground forces in Jabalia. Now, this is going to be a little confusing here because there were multiple strikes in and around the Jabalia area. The ground operation that Israel says they conducted, they say killed 50 terrorists, were able to destroy multiple tunnels and weapons, and they put out this graphic saying that this compound they hit includes tunnel entrances, rocket launch points, command centers, weapons production facilities, and an intelligence center. You can see that it's surrounded by a school, 2 mosques, medical clinic, and a water pumping station. Nothing out of the ordinary there. For one, Gaza is so incredibly densely packed with people that there's going to be civilian infrastructure everywhere. And additionally, we've seen, it's nothing new, but Hamas historically embeds themselves throughout the civilian population. And they're going to be right beside things that have a level of international protection. Schools, mosques, healthcare facilities, things like that. Now, there were also at least 2 Israeli strikes in this general Jabalia area. Israel says one of them killed 50 terrorists. Again, that number 50 is being thrown out a couple times here. Hamas put out that those statements were inaccurate. Al Jazeera said that 50 were killed, 150 people were wounded in these airstrikes in the Jabalia area. There's a refugee camp there. Hamas, in speaking about this, they didn't necessarily say that it was all civilians. Hamas didn't really put out any details in terms of the people killed. They simply said that the IDF claims were false and unfounded, intended to justify its heinous crime. So we're starting to see a lot more footage put out by Hamas, videos, pictures, statements, talking about the ongoing fighting, on the ground fighting with Israeli Defense Forces. Some of it's at pretty close range, as you'll see here. Now, casualties are very hard to come by at this point. Early in the fighting, Israel was putting out pretty regular updates as to how many terrorists they'd killed. That has stopped. Now they're just putting out information when high-value targets are eliminated. Hamas is not putting out their numbers of killed, right? They'll occasionally put out a statement about one of their leaders that has been killed in a strike, just kind of commemorating him. But you're not seeing the onesies and twosies really on either side. So the fighting is ongoing. Lots of people are dying on both sides. But in terms of updated casualty counts from the two, military forces, not front and center in any news outlets right now. However, it does look like Israel has announced 14 total soldiers who have been killed since the push into Gaza just a couple days ago, which the number should not be shocking. Again, we're seeing a lot of footage come out from Hamas of very close range engagements. Now, yesterday we reported on some interceptions outside of Israeli airspace of a missile or drone, maybe both. I think there were a couple that took place, and those were launched from Yemen. We know that because the Houthis came out and said those are ours. We're the ones who launched the missiles. So the Houthis are an Iranian-backed militia that essentially control Yemen at this point. They're kind of the party in power, if you will, while that war still 100% rages on. Now, I did see some people saying yesterday, and this was kind of circulated on social media, that Yemen had declared war on Israel. That's not exactly what happened, but I'll read the statement of what Yemen put out. They are entering the conflict, although I don't know I would read this exactly as a declaration of war. They say, quote, "Our armed forces have launched a large batch of ballistic and cruise missiles and a large number of drones on various Israeli enemy targets in the occupied territories." And they went on to describe the attacks as supportive of Palestinians in Gaza who are facing American-Israeli aggression. So the Houthis are involved. They're going to continue launching strikes from Yemen towards Israel. Again, if we're getting into the nuance of a declaration of war, I don't think that's what this is. It's just the Houthis outright saying, yeah, we're going to be involved. Yeah, we're going to strike targets whenever we want to. Now, quick note on the Houthis to kind of give you an idea of who they are. Probably worth a deep dive at some point. But their slogan, the Houthi movement slogan, is Allah is the greatest, death to America, death to Israel, curse on the Jews, victory to Islam. So no real friend of the United States, no real friend of Israel. So it's not shocking that they might try to take advantage of this situation and get some blows in while Israel is occupied with Hamas. Now, likely as a response to Yemen entering this war, Israel deployed multiple missile ships into the Red Sea. One of those capabilities would likely be missile deterrence, drone deterrence, to shoot down some of those munitions as they're headed towards Israeli territory. And at the same time, I'm sure it's no coincidence, Hamas put out this video here showing that they have developed, or claiming to have developed, torpedoes. So I guess they'd plan on putting those out into the Mediterranean and striking Israeli naval targets. A little surprised that they made this video. Usually, look at Ukraine, for instance. Ukraine got these brand new ATACMS from the United States. They didn't announce it. They weren't putting videos together of those ATACMS rolling out and being loaded into HIMARS. There's some value in surprising your enemy with a capability they don't know you have. So kind of surprised that Hamas decided, hey, let's throw some promo videos together and release them to the broader world. Let everybody know we've got these torpedoes. But who knows? Maybe there's more of an informational value in flaunting these capabilities than actually surprising the Israeli military. That's not what I would think, but they're the ones that put it out. Finally, a little bit of good news. That Rafah crossing in the south of Israel that connects into Egypt has been opened. So there are civilians that have been able to exit Gaza. It looks like this number's kind of fluctuating right now, and all of these are going through pretty intense security screenings as they exit Gaza. So take these numbers with a grain of salt right now, but it sounds like between 300 and 400 foreign passport holders, as well as some severely wounded Gaza civilians, have been able to evacuate Gaza entirely. Right? So previously we've talked about evacuating like Gaza City and evacuating from the north and moving south, but they're still very much inside of Gaza. This is 300 to 400 people outside of Gaza entirely. In Egypt, potentially headed back home, wherever that might be all around the world. There are estimates right now that as many as 7,500 people could be eventually evacuated from Rafah. So again, the very early stages of this these have been negotiations going on for 3.5, 4 weeks at this point, right? Trying to get foreigners, trying to get civilians out of not just Gaza City, but the entire Gaza Strip. So good news, some are able to come out. Hopefully that number continues to climb. But that's all I got for now. Of course, if interested in national security subjects, be sure to check out the sit reps I put out on Substack. Link is in the description below. 7 to 10 of the top articles each week, along with a few podcast recommendations. But thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.